Realistic book haul! Books are expensive these days, especially the hardcover books. And I've definitely seen, and I myself have done these videos where it's like giant stacks of books, like hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of books. But that's not always realistic. Sometimes it's like you just go out, you buy a couple of books and it's already like $100. So I wanted to show you a realistic book haul because I don't always go out and buy a million books. I tend to buy just a couple, so let's talk about those. So the first book from this realistic budget-friendly book haul is Zodiac Academy. This is done by two authors, Peckham and Susanne Valenti. This book has been on my list for a really long time, but it's such a gigantic series that I'm like kind of putting it off, but I think I'm ready because I'm about to finish another bigger series that I'm reading right now, which is 11 books, and this is like more than 11 books last time I checked, because there's like the other series that connects to it. But yeah, I'm really excited about this one. So the way that I understand Zodiac Academy is, well, it's about a Gemini, like me, and it has fae and kind of like a dark academia style, and there's magic and tensions, and so our main character, I believe, is a twin, and she ends up going to this school. And I think that this school teaches all of the students how to use their magic and that kind of stuff, because there's not just fae, there's also vampires and werewolves and all of the other amazing magical creatures that I'm absolutely obsessed with. But it also has the drama. I don't know if it's high school or college. I would imagine college, because I'm pretty sure this is a spicy book, and the idea of reading about spiciness with teenagers makes me deeply uncomfortable, so I hope that's not the case, but I'm pretty sure it's college because it was in the adult section as well. And it just sounds really fun. So there's a lot of tie-ins with astrology and fate and destiny, and so I believe people go to this school to work on their magical powers, but also just figure out what is their path and how does that relate to astrology. And I think that that's really cool. As somebody who's definitely interested in that kind of stuff, I think that it's really fun how it's all going to be connected like that in a different magical kind of setting. And of course there's the morally gray character who's a dragon shifter, so you can't go wrong with that. So yeah, it sounds really cool, so that's why I picked it up finally after all of these years, and I'm pretty excited to read it. So yeah, it's the only softcover that I got in this little book haul. And so this one is $28.99 Canadian. Next up, I finally got A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. And this is one that I was a little bit on the fence for because I've heard a lot of mixed things about it, that it's just generic and not really that mind-blowing. But I've also heard other things where it's just thoroughly entertaining and magical and has powerful women characters. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna read it because I don't mind predictable as long as I like the characters. And I think that it just sounds kind of fun. So it's basically our main character here, Freya, is blessed, I believe, by a goddess. And so people don't know that. And she always wanted to be a fighter, and that never really happened. And she's getting married to this whatever, some random guy, I think, who's in charge of some kingdoms. Her husband or husband to be betrays somebody, and for whatever reason that means that she has to fight to the death with some other guy's son. And I think that's when her powers are revealed, and then she ends up teaming up with this person's son. And there's a lot of romantic tension between these two characters. And so people kind of are oh, this person is actually really important to stop in maybe whatever war is happening. And so they decide not to kill her and team her up with the guy's son, which is I think what happens. And then she basically has to not only train, but also go through all of these trials that the gods have set up in this world. So I think that's really cool. I always love a trial story. But I think the caveat is that if she does end up going through with her feelings with the guy, that can mess up fate and destiny. So I think he's supposed to be there as a temptation that she's not allowed. So kind of the whole Adam and Eve story, where you have the apple, and it's the temptation of it. And so I think that that's what this guy is supposed to represent in this story. So yeah, it sounds pretty cool, and I definitely am pretty excited to read it because it sounds just up my alley. This one was $39.99 Canadian. Next up, I got A Song in Ice and Fire #1, which is the Game of Thrones book. And it's kind of funny. This is by George R.R. Martin. And I've read so many books, but I've never actually read this one. I've watched the show, but I've never read the book. And I'm like, what kind of fantasy reader am I if I've never read one of the like most popular fantasy books of all time? So I was like, I gotta fix that. So I did finally pick this up and I'm excited about it. My sister has read all of the books and has said that it does differentiate from the show, and there's a lot of things that don't happen in the show, including characters who aren't in the show that do appear in the books and different kind of storylines and stuff. So that's really exciting to me that there's this whole other like aspect that wasn't covered. From what I understand though, the first book definitely follows all of the events of the show, but I think it starts to deviate around the second or third book. So it'll be pretty much like a repeat of what I already know, but I think just reading it is something that I've always wanted to do. And I know that when I was a teenager, I wasn't really comfortable with reading something like this. So many years have passed since then, of course. And I'm like, you know what? I'm a fantasy reader. How have I not read Game of Thrones? Like, I just read Mistborn for the, finished the series for the first time. So I'm like, I'm on a roll here. So for those who are not familiar with the premise of this book, it's basically like this big story set in this very intricate world, and there's like this throne that everybody pretty much wants, and there are these different kind of like families throughout, but the ones that we care about the most are the Starks and the Lannisters. And without like spoiling anything, because there are some really cool things that happen, at least in the show, that I know happen, that's really surprising. But the first book, at least, definitely focuses on the war between the Starks and the Lannisters, and people trying to fight to get that throne after there was like the original like person who sat on the throne, and he went mad, and he was like in charge of dragons and stuff. And so there's another character, Daenerys, who's like kind of related to that, and they call her like the mother of dragons and stuff, and she has her own storyline, but she's not in kind of like the same area as them. And so she also wants to come and get the throne, but so she's building an army. Starks are just trying to chill, Lannisters are trying to conquer, and it's just like all of these powerful families like fighting each other and politicking each other so that their families can be in charge of kind of like the world of that area. So yeah, that's the best way I guess that I can explain it. But there's some really shocking things that happen. There's some really interesting characters, and just like a really interesting and in my opinion, well-developed world. And there's dragons. This book was $48 Canadian. Last but not least, I picked up 5 Broken Blades by Cordland. And look at this. It's like the sprayed edges one. Absolutely gorgeous. I've been thinking about getting this book, and one of my friends has recently got this book, and I was like, okay, it's time to get this book. And then I saw the sprayed edges, and I'm like, okay, I'm convinced I need like this beautiful. I love it. I love this trend going around with the sprayed edges so much. It's so beautiful and artistic, and like, because I know that there was that trend where people were having their books out this way in the shelf instead of this way, and I hated it. But then when you have the sprayed edges, now I actually really like it. So this book is interesting because it's basically about like 5 really well-trained like killer assassin people, and there's this like kin guy that is immortal, and people are pretty much just fed up with him. So I don't know who kind of starts this, but these 5 trained people, their job now is to basically kill the kin and take the throne. However, only one of them can obviously take the throne, so it's kind of like a battle royale, I would imagine. Like, you can kill the kin, but then you have these other like 4 people that you need to fight who are also very well like trained in murder and stuff, that you have to kill all of them as well in order to take the throne. So I think that it's interesting because I love characters who are already just like so strong and ready to fight, that I'm interested to see like how that story and how that dynamic is going to go. Like, are they going to be friends? Are they already friends? What does that look like? Why do they want the throne? Like, do they know how to handle that? What are their different kind of opinions in terms of like running a country or an empire or whatever it may be? I think that's really cool, and I really kind of expect the book to talk about that, and I think it's just gonna be cool. I don't think I've really seen anything bad about this, to be honest, and it just sounds like a fun kind of action fantasy story. But we all know that I bought it because of the sprayed edges. And so because of the sprayed edges, this hardcover book was $43.99. So yeah, those were the 4 books that I got, and books are really expensive. So I wanted to really just show that like these are the prices of books, at least in Canada, and these are 4 books that seem really interesting and are definitely kind of like up my alley in terms of being fantasy, action-oriented with also some romance. I mean, I don't know about all the other ones, but I know for sure Zodiac Academy has romance, so yeah, even if they don't all have romance, I still like it. So in total for those 4 books, keep in mind that I got 25% discount on 5 Broken Blades, and I also get a 10% discount for being like a rewards member of my bookstore. I ended up spending a total of $108.65 on 4 books, 3 of them being hardcovers, 1 of them being a softcover. I hope you enjoyed this realistic book haul. If you haven't read any of these books, I hope that you found maybe one that sounds interesting to you, or maybe 2 or 3, or if we're lucky, all 4 of them sound really interesting to you. I'll of course be making videos about every single one of these books when I do read them, so if you're interested in watching me read those books, hear my thoughts on those books, all of that good stuff, definitely hit the subscribe button if you haven't already and turn on the bell notification. That way you get notified anytime a new video comes out. If you're really shocked at how expensive books have gotten recently, like I am, definitely hit the like button and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!